Welcome to this month's installment in our series of interviews concerning priesthood in the Roman Catholic Church. And I'm very happy today to have one of the gems of our diocesan priesthood here in Hamilton Diocese, Father Ron Cote. Father Ron, welcome.
Thank you.
Can you tell us a little bit about your background, your family, etc.?
Glad to, yes. I'm one of 9 children. I was born in 1930, and I was number 2 in the family. Number 7 was another priest, David.
Yes. Yeah, I remember.
Who was ordained in 68 and 10 years younger than me, but he didn't have my health. And so I have a lot longer to get things right than he had. But he did well.
Yes, he
did very well. My dad was a veterinarian, half-time large animals, half-time young, pets.
Pets, yeah.
Taught at the university part-time, vet college, and my mom was a stay-at-home mom. Most moms were in those days. And we lost my dad when he was 51, so that was a bit of a challenge.
Very young.
I was in the seminary in my 3rd year. I went to, by the way, St. Agnes and St. Stanislaus schools up to grade 4, then grade 8. Loretto, I didn't qualify for Loretto Academy at the time, so I went to Guelph Collegiate. It was a great school. I enjoyed it and went right to grade 13 there. And the fall after my graduation, I signed up at the seminary.
Okay.
So that's kind of
What got you thinking about priesthood at that age?
I guess I always thought about it. We were a family of faith. There weren't a lot of involvements of laity in those days, but my dad, I remember, was very much in favor of the weekend retreat movement at Loyola. And he did promotion of that and took a couple of my brothers on a couple of retreats. My mother was kind of a similar, when Sister Mary from Holy Spirit Center in Hamilton used to come to town. She'd always pick my mother up and they'd visit a few CWL ladies to spread the retreat movement. So that was probably one of their contributions, apart from, never thinking that we would ever miss Mass on Sundays.
Okay.
I was an altar server.
Yeah.
For quite a few years, got to know the priest pretty well, admired Father O'Reilly, especially our pastor, for 25 years, I guess. He moved in with 3 other assistants when the Jesuits moved out.
Okay. Yeah.
And I was baptized, I guess, before the end of 1930 by a Jesuit, Father Quirk. And by January, I think they were gone. So I got my start with the Jesuits.
Okay. Yeah, that's why you're a smart guy.
Anyway, one of our teachers was really a great supporter of the mission, so I thought I'd be a missionary. And but as time went on, I guess the diocesan priests kind of told me we got mission work here too, and you don't have to go to China. The one thing that really influenced me, apart from the example of the priests, was a visit to the St. Augustine Seminary. Father Frank Hawkins took 2 or 3 of us, I think we're maybe grade 9,
okay,
to visit St. Augustine's, and I got a whole different picture of what I had.
Yeah.
I thought it was like a monastery, and they prayed half the day, and were pretty solemn type people.
Not a lot of laughs.
No, and I found it was totally different. And I thought that image stuck with me through high school. And
that they were happy, that they played sports.
We saw them in recreation and so on. I thought, what the heck, they're normal people. Yeah. And so it was always in the back of my mind. And
at seminary, you felt very much at peace that this was your call.
Yeah, and I thought, well, and of course it was during the war. I was 9 when the war started. My dad's youngest brother was in England. They hadn't embarked on the continent yet, but they were preparing, and he died in 1941 on St. Joseph's Day, and his name was Joe, in a blackout. He was a dispatch rider on a motorcycle and collision with a van.
Okay.
And he's buried there. So, and we had a couple of second cousins that were priests, so it was seemed to be a kind of a useful thing to do, to go to the seminary.
Okay.
And to see if you were cut out for it, you know?
And you turned out to be. You turned out to be cut out for it.
Well, I thought so, yes,
Yeah.
and the bishop
the
did
bishop
too.
at the time obviously
that's
thought
the
so.
final thing. When we used to get under our door the call to orders, you know, ad diaconatum.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that was the key, you know. If
Once you
you're
were
going to be made
ordained
a
a deacon, yeah.
you know, and if you got a blank card, it meant that you weren't being called.
Okay.
Yeah.
Rather than a pink slip, it was
yeah.
just a blank card.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
Anyway,
What year were you ordained?
I was ordained in 55.
55. Okay.
Yeah, and there were 11 of us that year from Hamilton Diocese, the
Yes.
largest group ever. There are two that form the remnant, Father Jerry Mulhall and myself.
Okay. Yes.
And we represented pretty well the whole diocese. There were at least 4 from the northern part.
Now, can you share with us what some of your greatest joys have been in
Certainly.
that long priesthood you've
Yeah.
had?
I would say the first thing would be Pope John XXIII and the Vatican Council.
Yeah.
Second Vatican Council. That was a real revolutionary time, and so welcome to all of us. Bishop Ryan gave terrific leadership there. He used to caution us from Rome, you know, don't believe everything you hear.
Yes.
Don't do anything till I get back.
Yes.
You know, it was wonderful to know that God could understand the vernacular as well as Latin. That was a great revelation.
Imagine.
Oh boy. And did I ever look forward to that?
He had to go from Hebrew to Aramaic to Greek to Latin, now the vernacular.
Well, we didn't touch much of those ancient languages,
Yeah,
but we
yeah.
certainly, I studied Latin for 8 years. And it's a great language, but
Beautiful language. But...
anyway.
So
I would
you
say
were
that's
7 years a priest when the Vatican II Council started. Okay.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And all this time, I knew when I was in my last year at the seminary that I was likely going to get a letter from the bishop to get signed up as a teacher because he had high priority for Catholic high schools. And so, sure enough, the letter came.
Okay.
There were summer courses because of the shortage of teachers, so 6 weeks at Ontario College of Education, one summer, and then the next summer, another 6 weeks. At the end of the first 6 weeks, I was sent to Cathedral Boys to teach several subjects, many of which I wasn't very good at, but I
Did the best you could?
I kept ahead of the kids a few pages.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then, in 7 years, in my 7th year of teaching, Bishop Ryan knocked on my door one day and said, after we talked about the weather perhaps, he said, well, the reason I came is to ask you to be principal of Bishop Ryan High School. The Notre Dame sisters had founded it and had brought up 4 classes, and there was one ready to graduate. Well, so I gave the names of a few priests that I thought were better qualified, and he said, oh, I think you can do it. So I said, well, you're in charge, so
Yeah.
I'll try. And we lived in parishes and helped out in parishes. We didn't have any days off, except, a bit at Christmas and Easter in the summer. But Christmas and Easter we usually spent marking papers because there were the 3 terms. And so it was a challenge to be both, functioning as an assistant in the parish and also
As a teacher or as a
teacher
principal?
or principal.
Yeah.
Yeah. Then finally, after 13 years at Bishop Ryan, I was asked to move to Cardinal Newman. It was set up at that time. It was really it was part of the Bishop Ryan satellite, and they called it Newman from that grade 9 up. And then, of course, they went on to greater things after that. I was there for about 1.5 years.
Okay. And then you were able to be full-time in a parish?
Yes. Bishop Redding asked me when Monsignor Ryan died, the bishop's brother at St. John's, "Are you ready to become full-time parish?" "Oh yeah, I'm ready." So after 23 years, I was happy to become a pastor and enjoyed it very much.
What were the highlights of being a pastor, full-time pastor?
Well, just helping to form community. Sure, celebrating sacraments, working with really good staff. Some of the rewards are still coming.
Okay.
People you met as
Yes.
staff members, students that you knew, and then parishioners that you know. So you may go to a mall, in civvies to shop, and you bump into about 6 people and have those conversations and catch up on their families. And
Isn't that wonderful?
if you remember any names of the family members, they're quite shocked. And but the memory isn't as good right now,
Yeah, you're famous for your memory of names.
Anyway, it was a very rewarding thing. It's a great responsibility to be a pastor. And of course, in those days, parishes weren't really as large, and the proportion of priests to people was much richer
Much
than
greater.
it is now.
Yeah.
I think it was, it was probably one priest for 800 people in those days, and now it's probably one priest for 4,000.
Something like that, yeah.
Because of the big parishes and so on.
You were able to get to know people very well.
Yes, you did. I felt both in teaching and in being a pastor, you were something like an orchestra leader. They made the music, and you just kind of directed and
kept it from getting out of
took
control.
credit, and you were the spokesman for the music.
Calm the guy on the drums down a bit, and let the lady with the harp, if you heard.
Yeah. So that's my image of being a pastor. Although I was ordained when Pius XII was Pope, but the coming of Pope John and now Pope Francis, I see them as my bookends.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Because I just have such great admiration for
one
both of them.
early in your priesthood and one later in your priesthood,
Right.
both having that very pastoral
Right.
touch. What were some of your challenges
well,
as a pastor?
I didn't really find a lot of challenges as a pastor. I think as time went on, the biggest challenge was dealing with families who don't have a connection with the parish. The situation now is that the school tends to be very involved at First Communion and Confirmation, and sometimes that's the only time the family comes.
Yeah.
And that's why I tried to, certainly in First Communion, integrate the First Communions in parish masses as opposed to masses in the afternoon with a segregated crowd.
Right.
And that was, to me, a good symbol of, the parish life. And they would see, gee, these people are coming, they must come every Sunday, and
to kind of connect them.
You'd win a couple of families every year that way.
Okay.
And you do it in the preparatory meetings as well. I think some of my greatest disappointments, if you want to call it that, would be when one or two good friends left the priesthood. Really good people. Now, mind you, most of them became very involved as lay people,
Okay.
married lay people.
Yes.
And they were, they benefited from their seminary training and remained friends. The other thing that really was a cloud over the last few years, the last 30 years, is the sexual abuse issue.
Yes.
That blew my mind. I just could not understand how people committed to celebrating sacraments and helping people in their spiritual journey, in their walk with the Lord, how they could do that. Thousands around the world. It's just a mystery I still can't.
Having been a teacher yourself and worked with young people, that
it's
somebody would abuse that opportunity.
it's been a real cross. And I think a lot of priests felt that they were kind of under suspicion.
Oh, sure.
You know.
Oh, yeah.
Because of that.
We were all painted with that brush.
Not people that knew you because they knew better. But the other thing that I found very difficult is funerals of children. I remember one of a 2-year-old who choked on a peanut butter sandwich.
Oh, gods.
And also a couple of funerals of murder victims. They were tough. But otherwise, I really welcomed the opportunity to celebrate a funeral mass and to help the family through that. Keeping the parish together, helping to sort out disagreements and that kind of thing in a good way was a bit of a challenge, but usually was successful. You might lose some sleep over it, but somehow the Holy Spirit would give you the right words to sort things out.
So what would you say to
seminarians or those considering?
Considering priesthood, what would you say?
Yeah, I would say a few things if I had the chance.
Or you have right now?
I would say, think with the church.
Yeah.
Think with the church. Remember that Cardinal Newman said, anything living changes. And vigorous life means more changes. You know, something like that was a good quote from him. And I would say also, don't idealize some church era that you didn't live through. Because I think sometimes young priests do that. They look back, they saw, Going My Way and the Bells of St. Mary's, and they have this idea, well, the externals appeal to them very much, and but they don't know what it was like. They don't realize that, at a funeral, only the priest received communion. There was no sermon or homily, and it was all in Latin. At a wedding, the bridegroom and the groom could receive communion if they're both Catholic, but nobody else. There are so many things they don't know about the church before the council. Sometimes that concerns me.
I always think of St. Augustine. One of the readings, he's writing in the late 300s, and he says, don't be nostalgic for the ancient church.
Well,
he's living in the ancient church, but already people were nostalgic for the yet more ancient church.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
He said they had as many problems as we do.
Yeah. And there was not the same life. There was seldom any involvement with the laity, except maybe running the bingo. And being ushers.
Yes.
And in the choir, maybe.
Yeah.
That was it. And only a few people could do that. So I would say, just remember that the church is not a museum. It's a life-giving, living organism inspired by the Holy Spirit. Be open to change, in other words. And, don't think you're going to be on a pedestal.
Not anymore.
Well, people put us on a pedestal when we were ordained, And, the air up there was not very breathable. The smoke from the vigil lights and the incense. It was not a very healthy situation. No, they're down with the people. I got a Christmas card when I was in the seminary from a relative in Buffalo, and there was a picture of a church on the cover with a cross on the top. Very beautiful winter scene. And the poem started on the front page. It said, I thought I heard the voice of God and climbed the highest steeple. You open the card up, but God declared, go down again. I dwell among the people.
Oh, wow.
And to me, that's That's kind of symbolic. And you know, the image since the council, it's not the pyramid anymore,
No.
with the Pope at the top, bishops, priests, and then the lay people, the large base. No, it's concentric circles with the Pope in the center, bishops around him,
Yes.
you know,
Surrounded by priests,
other
and deacons
religious
and
priests, and then the laity, you know,
Yes.
but on the same level, but with a different mission.
Yes.
You know, that to me is a great image. Priests are for service. Maybe I could end with a quotation from Bishop Gary Gordon.
Please.
Remember on retreat a couple of years, well, 4 or 5 years ago, he said, "It's not what we do. It's already been done. We just have to be present to it." And I think that says a lot. Yeah, I help out still now and then in parishes, although not so much during covert. And I feel that if I have an extended warranty, I have a right, or I have a need to help out now and then to justify it.
Well, at the end of October, you're turning 90 years
Yes,
old.
yes.
Yeah. Well,
Still able to sit up and take nourishment.
you're 90 and I'm jealous of your hair. Father Ron, thank you so much.
I am greatly privileged to be able to give my spiel, you know, and I hope it helps somebody somewhere.
Oh, I think it
along the
will.
line. Thank you.
I think it will.